Oh boy, it looks like I'm back again with another stupidly long list of indie games to share with you in a video that took way too long to make. In an age where a dying AAA industry seemingly pumps out the same game reskinned over and over, the indie scene never seems to fail me, constantly producing beautiful works of love, innovation, and creativity. Games I am excited to share with you today. Now, a year and a half ago, I made a video covering the top 50 indie games that you simply must play, and well, you guys kinda liked it. And of course, since releasing that, I have both realized I missed a couple games and have also played some since. We are also going to keep the same rule as last time, where we are going to explain and talk about these games whilst keeping them spoiler-free as possible, because they are also recommendations for games that you haven't played in case one catches your eye. So without further ado, here are 50 more indie games to play before you pack up your peripherals for good. In Children of the Sun, you have a single bullet to take out an entire cult. After the sinister group ruined your life and took everything from you, you're now driven by revenge, and there is nothing that will stop you and your sniper from claiming it, not even the law of physics. With your rifle in hand, you track down groups of these cultists to exterminate them in droves. However, your chances and ammunition are limited, so much so that you only get a single shot to take out every single target per level. But luckily for you, you're not just any sniper. After firing your shot, you have total control over the bullet, guiding it from target to target, curving it around obstacles, triggering traps, and jumping from cultist to cultist like a lethal, instantaneous, fatal virus. Children of the Sun is almost as if Sniper Ghost Warrior became a puzzle game. The game asks you to pick your targets well, marking the enemies, picking where best to take the shot from, and then taking control of the bullet, hitting targets in their vitals before ricocheting off into the next victim. Each puzzle requires you to take out all the targets in a single shot, or you fail, no big deal. How often do you think about ancient Rome, you ask? Well, very often, thanks to this sweet game called The Forgotten City that places you right inside an underground metropolis in ancient Roman times, and this place has a little bit of a problematic curse. If at any point anyone commits a sin, the entire populace of the city will die. Now, seeing as the title of the game is The Forgotten City and not something you'll find on a modern-day map in Italy somewhere these days, yeah, somebody definitely took that forbidden apple from the tree. But alas, it's a good thing you're not from around these parts or this time period at all, and you've ventured 2,000 years into the past by cleverly manipulating time to uncover what went wrong in the final days of this cursed city. Now, you could shoot everyone with a bow and arrow, but you won't really achieve much. The only way to crack this mystery is by conversing with the city folk, exploiting the space-time continuum, and most difficult of all, making tough moral choices like, should you shit on the pavement to avoid the dreaded shared Roman toilet stick or not? If you love history, mystery, or godly witchery, The Forgotten City is just brilliant. It gives you a playground to explore with a boatload of well-written characters and a really intriguing story. Just don't Google the Roman toilet stick thing. In Rainworld, you get to play as a slug-cat hybrid within a world where you are both predator and prey in a vicious, broken ecosystem. Spoiler, you are prey a lot more of the time than not. Because you see, you found yourself in a hellscape of torment, and there's only one way to figure out how bad it is, and that is by trial and error. Rainworld is not going to hold your slimy little paws. It's going to show you the basics, how to eat, sleep, grab, throw, and die, lulling you into a false sense of security that it's a simple experience, a silly little survival game that's a Tamagotchi with a few more pixels. Wrong. This game is actually an encyclopedia on how to utterly destroy the ego. You see, there is a 65-page long document on just movement mechanics, of which the tutorial in the game will cover about 0.01%, and it does this because life doesn't teach you everything. You have to learn it, and it turns out the game has one objective in mind: creating a living ecosystem that you and your little slug cat self are at the bottom of. The Dark Souls of Duolingo is something I've heard Chants of Senaar be referred to. This one is a linguistic puzzle game that is an absolute treat for anyone that loves languages, brain scratches, or just the simple feeling of connecting people. Long ago, several civilizations lived and flourished within a massive tower. That was until time eroded their connections and their very languages became foreign to one another. Now they live estranged, separated by the sands of time and no longer speaking. That is until you, a fated traveler with a talent for communication and deciphering languages, arrives. You begin to piece together their languages with your trusty notebook, translating them as you go and thus allowing them to understand one another once more. The level of care that went into this game is gorgeous. Even the fictional languages have their own syntax and grammar rules for you to work out, and it is such a refreshing take on the point-and-click detective-esque genre that even the weirdly forced stealth sections of this game cannot diminish. It is a truly unique game, and one you just cannot miss. Alright, let's turn up the oven temps. It's time for Pizza Tower. The ingredients of this game include platforming, 90s cartoons, a bit of Wario Land sauce, ridiculously fast platforming, and a fat, balding yet surprisingly agile and powerful Italian man who is on an absolute tear. You see, Peppino Spaghetti is a dedicated, vengeful small business owner and an absolute freakish, forward-moving whirlwind of destruction as you sit on the W key and fly through this incredibly quick, slick, and greasy platformer to destroy the titular Pizza Tower and save a small restaurant from going out of business. This game honestly pulls off Sonic better than Sonic does somehow, and Peppino Spaghetti is a hero who's thrown business etiquette out the window to stick it to big business. There was a solid reason that this was one of the best games of 2023 without a question, so go and play it and also follow the golden rule of life: never anger an Italian pizza shop owner or you may not live to regret it. Inscryption is another one of my favorite games of all time, and it's not exactly the first of its kind from its creator. You see, Inscryption is a bit of a genre blender. It's a deck-building card game, a psychological horror, an escape room puzzler, and a roguelike all tossed into one blender to make a disturbing, inky black concoction that goes down the gullet way better than it has any right to. Kicking off after you wake up inside a cabin in the woods with two unnerving eyes staring back at you, you're forced to play a game against the shaded figure holding you hostage. This game is never exactly what you would expect it to be, and that's why I love it. It just has so many little twists and turns. The cards that you're playing with begin talking to you, hinting at much darker things at play, and God, I just want to spoil the entire game for you, but I'm gonna... It takes every fiber of my being not to spoil this one for you, but I kind of have the Outer Wilds policy. It's much better to go in knowing nothing. But when it comes to games that just make you want to duct tape your eyes open and pay attention to it for as long as possible, this might be it. I usually don't love when games force comparisons to one another, so when a Metroidvania appeared claiming to have a Sekiro parry mechanic, my eyes nearly rolled out the back of my head. But I am so happy I put away the old man yells at cloud energy to give Nine Souls a crack. This one's a cocktail of cyberpunk, Taoism, Eastern fantasy, difficult ball-busting bosses, solid characters, and smooth-ass combat. It's a jack of all trades truly wrapped up in a really gorgeous hand-drawn art style. To set the scene, you play as Yi, a vengeful warrior of Apocalypse past who has been awoken by a child in a world which is proclaimed paradise by the gods. But you see, Yi was around when this world-building lore took place, so he knows very well that that story is nothing but an illusion that is protected by ancient rituals and full of lies spewed by the deceptive deities. So of course, in an incredibly metal fashion, he sets off on a vengeful quest where he vows to murder the hell out of the Nine Souls, aka the Nine Rulers of the long-forsaken realms, to end the ritual and thus unveil the truth. Alright, bad news. Mankind is dead, and the only thing left on the surface of the planet are machines fueled by blood. Extra bad news. You're one of those machines, and blood is running out up here, so of course the only logical thing to do is to descend into hell to get your next fix of the good old red petrol. That sounds like something completely over the top, but that's exactly what Ultrakill is for you. Inspired by classic shooters with a little bit of that Devil May Cry sauce on top, this one is a ludicrously fast, blood-fueled dance of red bullets and action that'll make even Rambo blush. The only way to play this game is to hyperfixate on getting as many star points as possible on your tear through the devil's domain as you overclock your brain to keep up with what the hell is happening. This game makes shooters fun again, not only with its over-the-top breakneck gore galore gameplay, but also with its insane arsenal of weapons, creative ways to destroy your enemies, and that movement. Oh baby, when you move like that, even Shakira would drop dead. Both the nostalgic feeling this game gives, along with the pure adrenaline it has you running on, makes it one of the best shooters out without question. The year is 1996 and the regime has their boot on the throat of freedom in the authoritarian nation of Petria. And rather than fight, I think it's better we go for an ill-advised road trip. Do we have supplies? Barely. A car? We're not old enough to drive. A plan? Hell no. But what we do have is a working thumb, the open road, and the whims of fate to guide our mad dash to the border. In this road trip anthology known as Road 96, you're playing as one of many missing teens in an ever-evolving choice-based procedural road trip where no two adventures are the same. Along your many hitchhikes to freedom, you'll meet surprisingly deep characters with interconnected stories, secrets, and motives. Every mile of this road will bring with it new choices that shape the rest of your adventure. You can walk, you can hitchhike with possibly suspect characters, or you can just catch a bus. Your decisions could have you fleeing the police or dodging the Mad Max wannabes trying to whack you on the open road. If that sounds too chaotic for you, with one different choice, maybe you'll just be jamming Connect 4 in the back of a car with your new best friend. The storytelling in this game, along with its unpredictable nature, really just captures the special feeling of going on an adventure that might not necessarily be the most planned. You have a destination in mind, but you definitely don't know how you're getting there, and that's beautiful. Rewinding a little bit back to the days of 2018, before the Great Plagues and people started spamming the word woke at everything they didn't like, there was this lovely game called Gris. It followed a young girl on an adventure through sorrow. Now, it turns out this studio really loves four-letter names and decided to crank the emotional vulnerability up to 11 by having another tale following a young woman named Alba, but this time with a wolf companion. Following a fatal experience for Alba and the young wolf cub, the pair are brought together by an unbreakable and very healthy bond of trauma before setting off to clean the world of a corrupting darkness that's taking a hold of it. You follow this wolf cub from basically birth to its rebellious teenage phase and finally until it's fully grown. All the while forging a bond nigh inseparable in a dangerous world that the pair will and need to do anything in order to survive. Spoilers, well, I mean not actually. The game is about parenthood and raising a life, and thus it has some really deep and impactful moments along with a storyline that's really easy to be invested in, especially when you replace a small screaming toddler with a cute wolf cub. Alright, how do I sell you on this game? Let's just say you're Indiana Jones with superpowered whips running trap-laden murderous dungeons with other players' ghosts being the only thing to guide you. Phantom Abyss is the name, and not getting absolutely crushed in ancient temples is the game. Do you remember that sweet mobile game called Temple Run? Yeah, you know the one. Now crank that to 11 whilst bringing it to the modern day, and bam, that's the formula for this game, and oh man, does it work. Your objective is pretty simple: retrieve a precious relic from a temple. What's not simple is the spinning balls of death, the laser grids, the rapidly moving platforms, the giant floating heads of doom, the rotating walls, and the other various creative ways that the architects of these dungeons thought up in order to keep their precious goods safe. But hey, it's alright, you're not alone in this trial. You've got the ghosts of your friends and fellow adventurers to follow. The only problem is you don't know which spirits succeeded and which ones of them deep-throated a spear along the run, so it's up to you to observe their fates or successes to guide you along the way. It's kind of like that Dark Souls blood pool mechanic, but if you stop and laugh at them, you'll probably end up with them in death very quickly. Times are changing and history could swing either way with a simple change of the winds. Europe is at the crux of revolution, for the crossroads of great religious and political change is upon us, and thus sets the scene for Pentiment. Step into the moccasins of Andreas Mahler, a master artist who has found himself embroiled in the middle of murders, scandals involving less dead people, and intrigue often stemming from dead people. You see, 16th century Bavaria is a bit wild, and you're caught up in a series of murders occurring in an abbey over the course of 25 years. Thus, you must investigate the crimes, with each decision you make having real consequences on the community. This game is full of monks, murder, medieval Europe, and an absolutely gorgeous art style that resembles historical manuscripts, making it one for history addicts and mystery solvers. I don't think you'll find a better game to transport you back to the era, because this is just one real immersive experience. Stardew Valley, yeah. Why be a real farmer when you can be addicted to doing things on the farm game instead? Hell, take it one step further and forsake all human contact as you attempt to get into the pants. I mean, have a possibly loving romantic connection with other laid-back small-town folk. This is your possibly fictional girlfriend's favorite game, and if it is, she has good taste, and it's inevitable that you'll be forced to play it with them sooner or later. Be warned, this game is like crack. It is an addicting experience that follows your player character as they inherit a run-down farm in Stardew Valley. Before long, you'll have met all the residents of the town, and you'll care about their lives more than you do about your real friends. There's so many quests to do, relationships to build, seeds to replant and water every day. This may just be the most perfect brain-dead or kick back and relax game. Well, I guess that depends on you. You might be one of the people that used to play Farmville, and if you are, your farm will be needlessly overplanned and way too overthought. Signalis is an ode to the classic survival horror games of the past, and let me tell you, it evokes that feeling flawlessly whilst also bringing it into a new era. Set in a dystopian future where humanity decided to impose themselves upon the cosmos with a little bit of that old colonization thing, you as Elster are a replica, a humanoid android that was created to blend into the populace to spy and spread propaganda. Only your memories are a little bit cooked and you've just woken up from cryostasis on a cold, dead planet that has been consumed by a darkness that drags you into it. And now, in order to regain your memories of who you are, your only hope is to push into the depths of the dead world to uncover what happened. This game is a true love letter to 90s horror that is complemented by a brilliant atmosphere, soundtrack, and one of the most thought-provoking stories I've experienced in a while, with a deep commentary on subjects such as sentience, love, and society. I promise you it will make you think a lot. And if you've played this one, you just don't really forget it. You're on a path in the woods, and at the end of that path is a cabin, and in the basement of that cabin is a princess. You, my friend, are here to slay her, and no, I did not slip an extra S onto the word lay. Is this a horror game, a love tale, or something entirely different? Why would we slay the princess anyway? Well, it's simple. If you don't, she will end the world. Oh, and she'll try to charm you, she'll lie, and if you let her, she'll kill you many times over without hesitation. At least that's what the disembodied voice of the narrator tells you inside of your head. But as games such as Little Misfortune or The Stanley Parable have oft proven, perhaps the narrator doesn't have your best interests at heart. Besides, how could she end the world chained up in her basement? This game is a brilliant make-your-choice narrative that really looks at the concept of nature versus nurture and looks to weigh in by providing a mirror to ourselves. This is more of an experience than a game, and you're probably not ready, nor will you ever be. Sea of Stars is just a brilliant throwback to games of the classic era, where fidelity wasn't the key to gamers' hearts and 16 bits could get you all the way into beautifully crafted worlds. It contains a narrative that's rather familiar. An ancient evil awakens, so gather the gang and slap them with your party of heroes. But it's also got plenty of twists and turns that keep you engaged along its roughly 35-hour main story runtime. Engaged might be an understatement, actually. I don't even particularly like turn-based combat games. Actually, you know what? That's a lie. I hate them. However, the world here is just so brilliantly crafted and full of activities, with each destination feeling different and full of things to do, so you just simply don't get bored. The writing will find you belly laughing 1 minute and tearing up the next. There's a reason this game was heaped with praise recently, so let me tell you, if you're looking for a throwback or looking for a new way to get into old school games, this JRPG should be your first stop. And maybe only then, you'll find out why it went on to collect Game of the Year awards like they were Pokemon. If you're one of those people that like cats more than you like humans, well, good news. Stray's main character is a cat, and all of the humans are dead. Kicking off surrounded by your cat pack, one unfortunate misjump sends you crashing into a world that is unknown by your little ginger cat brain. But if evolution has taught me anything, orange cats are on non-stop demon time, so you simply limp off the 40-story fall and find yourself in an unfamiliar underground cyber city inhabited by these little ravenous freaks called Zerks. Oh, and also what remains of humanity with their humanoid sentient robot companions that have outlasted them. But you see, they're not killer robots like you'd expect. No, they're very human. So human, in fact, that their society has befell a similar trap to our own, with class wars raging on and the downtrodden being tossed to the lowest levels to be treated like dirt. But none of that matters to you. You're a cat with a robotic speak and spell drone and a family to return to. Everything that happens along the way was just pure orange cat energy. The Leaf Village has been assaulted by demons, and no, I'm not talking about the monsters that created Boruto. As your village burns, you're tasked to deliver a scroll that is vital to your clan's survival, making you a delivery person. Fitting, because this game is titled The Messenger. This ain't no Amazon delivery gig. It's a tale of demons, ninjas, classic action platforming, and surprise time-traveling, setting-twisting thrills that will blow your mind and double the bits from 8 to 16 in the blink of an eye. Starting off as a brilliant platformer and almost flipping its genre halfway through, I do think that The Messenger belongs right up there with games like Celeste. I say that because the game's controls are tight, the challenge is there, and it's always fair. The progression of the character along the way is an absolute blast. The humor is really solid, the shopkeeper is a legend, and the game will be sure to play with your expectations of what a platformer can do with constant unexpected surprises. You know, being a complete unbridled and unapologetic menace to society is refreshing, and often just kind of brilliant for your mental health. letting go of all the pressures of day-to-day life and just embracing your inner winged demon to bully some unsuspecting humans with no care. And why should you care? You're a goose and you have days to ruin. This is Untitled Goose Game, a silly little slapstick sandbox experience where you are a goose that has been unleashed upon an unsuspecting village to wreak absolute havoc. From the old chap's backyard to the fashion boutiques, you'll be playing pranks, stealing hats, tying some poor kid's laces, and most importantly, honking a lot. You can also play this one with a friend if you want to double up the horror for humanity. Trust me, being a complete and utter problem to society is great, and geese, they don't feel guilty. Thank goodness you're here watching this video right now. Seriously, I appreciate it a lot. Hey, also subscribe to the channel. That'd help me and you both. But seriously, thank goodness you're here is also the name of the next game we're chatting about. Just in case you thought being a goose was not absurd enough, let's just turn that ridiculousness dial right up and head over to the bizarre English town of Barnsworth as we play as a traveling salesman. And that description is the most logical sense I can make of this completely unhinged comedic adventure. Listen, you have no idea what you're getting into, and I refuse to elaborate any further because that would just simply ruin it. Just be ready to laugh because this might be one of the funniest games out there if you don't mind a little bit of occasional fart humor and being subjected to increasingly strange scenarios. Now, fair warning, this game is pretty short, but it's absolutely worth it, and it is a standout game that will brighten your day. Hyper Light Drifter, oh my god, what a treat, yet another game that pays homage to the era of 16-bit classics. This is an isometric action RPG done right. It tells the tale of death and decay in a world of forgotten knowledge that's been buried by time. And you are a drifter that is haunted by a vicious illness. Thus, you ventured to the lands buried in time in hopes to find a way to quell the sickness chasing you. Not only is this premise and world cruelly awesome, but so is the combat. With a difficulty somewhere between MLG Pro and casual dad gamer, every enemy is always moving and attacking in their own ways. Like these little ninja frogs, for instance. They always hop diagonally and they're just so annoying. It results in combat becoming a frantic and thoughtful dance. A dance that if you slow down at any point during, you may find your fragile health bar quickly depleted. You are a glass cannon, and that much is evident when the bosses try and treat you like a mosquito they're trying to get rid of by trying to blast you to high hell with AoE attacks or by constantly swinging huge weapons in your direction. This game is a cracker with a brilliant story, world, and combat system to boot. It is a jack of all trades. Fans of monster collecting style games shall not be left out in this video. Here's Casette Beasts, which took the premise of Pokemon and ran all the way with it to home base. Nostalgia, retro technology being repurposed, and optional co-op fun, this game really has it all. After washing up face down on the sandy beaches of New Wirral, the residents of your newly discovered island report having trouble with strange beasts that inhabit the lands, and now you are tasked with fighting them off using what I can only describe as video game bullshit science and cassette tapes to record and transform into monsters. This game is a lesson on the methodology of the old yoink and twist, taking a familiar nostalgic formula and creating something new. The classic monster collecting, turn-based combat, and elemental weakness systems all rear their head once again, but they are made so much deeper with this game's excellent combination system. You can take any two monsters and slam them together to create a fully new animated form, and I feel really sorry to the poor artist who had to draw all of those sprites, damn. You close your eyes and go to bed, but bam, suddenly a memory of a really embarrassing encounter from 10 years ago plagues your thoughts. If only I had a gun that could kill the past and make it like it never happened. Well, you can have exactly that if you overcome the bullet hell that is Enter the Gungeon. This is, hands down, one of the best roguelites ever made, seamlessly blending wild, handcrafted dungeon rooms with procedurally generated labyrinths to form a bullet hell fortress that is packed to the brim with the gun dead, all for the main quest of protecting its ultimate treasure, and the side quests of both destroying anyone who walks inside, whilst also being the sickest playground of your choice for one of several deviants and their varied choice of wild weaponry. This game is addicting, there is no other way to say it. You'll walk into the Gungeon and constantly find yourself falling in love with different characters and weapon combinations before getting crushed and going all over again. If you like roguelites or you want something on the Steam Deck, just check this one out right here. Nothing like committing a bit of sacrilege and blasphemy against God, or in this case 3 to 4 gods, in Cult of the Lamb, a community building, cult creating, dungeon crawling hack and slasher that has just as much enjoyment to offer as your followers do feces, that they will litter around your camp and force you to clean up because you're not really an almighty cult overlord, you're actually a goddamn daycare host for a bunch of buffoons. This game was a smash hit when it released, doing everything near perfect whilst hitting you with that one song. that will be stuck in your head forevermore. This game really goes to show that you can build up thriving communities that are self-sufficient, full of love and everything a human needs. It's too bad you're probably a psycho and none of these poor bastards are gonna live. Now, what happens when you combine roguelikes with large, huge, open world-ish maps? Well, you get Risk of Rain 2. Here you find yourself and your crew of 1 to 4 on an alien planet with hordes of frenzied Xenos trying to rip your head off from the moment you emerge outside your drop pod because they are quite frankly offended by your continued existence and your nearing proximity. Unfortunately for them, however, you are one of 11 playable lunatics with an arsenal full of weapons that might just challenge the armory of the good old US of A. I think you'd get the general gist of a roguelite at this point, but what makes this an experience in a league of its own is its sheer quantity and quality. With over 100 items to stack and combine, along with so many classes, the replayability is near endless. And if that wasn't enough, let's just throw in the artifact system to flip core game mechanics or add modifiers to change the game experience in general. Hell, even the storytelling methods feel fresh, with an emphasis on discovery and environmental storytelling, which is one thing that I love a lot. Risk of Rain 2 is huge and yet another genuine contender for one of the best games in its genre. Life passes before your eyes. Life goes by in a blink. I'm sure you've heard these sayings, these kind of grim adages that remind us that time is fleeting. But what if we took that saying and morphed it into a game mechanic? A mechanic where time literally passes with the blinking of your eyes. Well, that's exactly what Before Your Eyes is going for. Amongst it being a very solid emotional single-player narrative game that looks to assault your tear ducts with haymaker after haymaker, it also has this one incredible design premise. It uses your webcam to track when you blink, which causes time to pass by in the retelling of your life. Now, I say retelling because the game kicks off on your journey to the afterlife, on top the Sea of Souls in the boat with the ferryman of the dead, also known as the guy that's responsible for Ubering people to the great beyond. However, unlike the awkward small talk in an Uber, he wants you to show him your story in order to help you move on. Thus, he sends you back to relive your life's core memories. From precious moments with family, first loves, your career highlights, and all those joyous moments you spent beating your me, I mean on Earth. But the ferryman isn't just happy with that. He needs to know it all. The baggage you carry, the repressed memories, the heartbreaking truths of your existence, and who you really are. Thus, you are hurled through your life, your secrets, your joys, and your sadness, one blink at a time until you finally come to the truth. And only once you find the truth will the ferryman be happy and be able to judge you. Well before Frostpunk, 11-bit studios went and dipped their toes into the community survival genre with this game called This War of Mine, and man did they create quite the experience. In this game, you are not playing as a maxed out, fully equipped elite soldier. You are controlling a group of civilians, trying to survive in a besieged city during the crushing environments of wartime. The struggles are the usual: food, medicine, you know. Oh, and also a ton of hostile snipers littering the city's ruins that are threatening to give you an express trip to the afterlife if you so much as show your face during the daylight. Thus, you're finding yourself upkeeping your hideout, taking care of survivors, crafting and trading during the daytime, but by night, sending out one soul on missions to scavenge locations in an attempt to fuel the colony's continued survival. This game is driven by crushing choices, for there is no luxury or bad decisions during war, there is only survival or the lack of it, so perhaps you might just need to sacrifice one for the many here and there. This game looks to give you a new perspective on war, and I think it achieves that with flying colors. When I start thinking of addictive things off the top of my head, we've got alcohol, crack, Magic the Gathering, which is also just crack sugar, and 2024's indie game of the year, Balatro, the roguelike poker-themed card game that took many gamers by the metaphorical balls and held their waning attention spans hostage more than a TikTok feed ever could. This game is hypnotically simple, yet brilliantly deep and complex all at the same time somehow. And it's all built around the basis of illegal poker hands, with the addition of a metric boatload of game-changing joker cards and ludicrous combos that you can pull out on your quest to scrounge together enough chips to challenge the devious blinds. I cannot understate how well this game is made. It is a masterclass of design with boatloads of replayability, and you'll often find yourself in an addicting flow state that you'll snap out of all of a sudden and realize that 5 hours has passed in the blink of an eye. By God, Balatro is just it. Valheim is a Viking Age action, adventure, and survival game cloaked in a whole load of Norse mythology and fun to be had by your lonesome or with a group of up to 10 friends. Set in the 10th world, you'll be creating your very own sagas in an attempt to prove yourself to Odin, who decided to send you, a dead Viking, here rather than Valhalla. He did this to have you scour the lands in order to slay several ancient beasts that the Allfather himself is simply too busy to deal with, apparently. But before challenging them, you'll need to actually find them, which will require you to also build up your weaponry and build massive mighty castles to store all of your shit. And look, Odin will probably have to wait because you'll be spending most of your time building your very own Viking settlement thanks to this game's intuitive and very fun building system. That is, if you don't get crushed by giants, goblins, boars, or the very lumber that you're trying to cut down in the process of building. Now, maybe you'll conquer this world aboard your longship, or maybe you didn't yell timber loud enough and that tree crashing on your head will be your undoing. Ever wondered what happens to a cat after they spend their 9 lives? Well, apparently they become a badass broom-wielding janitor of the underworld that's tasked with cleaning up its filthy non-compliant denizens by bashing them over the head with that aforementioned broom. This one's called Crypt Custodian, and it's a game that somewhat feels like a children's picture book came to life, then mastered the fundamentals of good game design and added the secret sauce of the internet, aka a cat, to make a fully cooked and really goddamn awesome Metroidvania Zelda-like, as the developers themselves put it. However, unlike other Metroidvanias that often take you several full moon cycles to fully complete, Crypt Custodian is not around for a long time, but it is around for a good time. And in its short run, Pluto, our lovely and unfortunate eternal purgatory janitor, will win you over. This is genuinely another one of those games where it is incredibly hard to say anything bad about it. Everything is just so smooth. The characters are simple but well thought out, the combat is juicy, the story is surprisingly touching, the soundtrack is great, and the familiar sense of nostalgia the game brings is just great. You know what? I take it back. I can say one negative thing about it. That it's just not long enough. That's hardly a bad thing to say. In The Witness, you wake up alone, unable to remember who you are or how you came to be stranded on such a strange island that is conveniently full of puzzles. But what you do know is that you like said puzzles, and through the power of memory jogging and good old video game bullshit science once again, you will regain your memories and find a way to escape this island by solving those brain thonkers. The Witness has puzzles, and a lot of them. Over 500 in fact, and it will use these puzzles and its beautiful world to send you off on an adventure around the Isle, in hopes to simply remind you that you're an idiot. Most of us would probably have a better chance at cavemanning this shit instead, you know, smashing rocks together, building a fire and a shelter, and then hunkering down and waiting for rescue, but we don't have that chance here, because this is a giant outdoor escape room survival game and the only way out is puzzles, damn it. This game is perfect if you like thinking a lot and you like brain scratches, with bonus points if you also want to look at pretty and relaxing environments whilst doing so. Well, at least the environments are relaxing if the puzzles don't make you angry, anyway. In Animal Well, you play as a mistreated, unfed, malnourished Tamagotchi that got sent to the neon afterlife and thus has found itself in a gorgeous retro labyrinth that is equally dark and creepy as it is luminant and irresistible. Okay, I lied about the Tamagotchi bit, but it's a theory, okay? Animal Well is a puzzle-based Metroidvania, and a gorgeous one at that, where there's always more than meets the eye at play. After hatching from your little flower, you find yourself in a world of animals, small and large, trustworthy or ravenous, some being rather hard to read. Will it help you or try to eat you? Who knows? Animal Well has no combat, no challenging parkour for the most part, and very basic controls on top of that, so don't go into this Metroidvania expecting Hollow Knight, because it's a puzzle lover's game through and through. And it's one of those games that me even mentioning the objective will probably rob a lot of the experience from you, so just know that you will go deep down the well with many secret chests to uncover and twice as many questions to go along with them. I think AntiChamber might have been made before dark mode was a thing on the internet, in a time where opening every web page would flashbang you and, you know, that gives you the game's first challenge. But if your weak little eyes can survive that, you'll be met with one of the most mind-bending puzzle games out there. Built as a psychological exploration game, you find yourself within the chamber. A maze-like space where hallways wrap around themselves, spaces move, and walls appear and disappear in the blink of an eye. This is a game that's built to make you question how games work, where doing stupid things that is impossible might actually just kind of be the answer. It is a head-scratcher of an experience, with the maze itself often making you reflect and ask the age-old question: am I actually dumb? Should I get tested? Do I need to ring my previous sexual partners? Oh, okay, you might actually just be dumb, yeah. But there's no time for that. Pick up your block shooting gun and work out how to keep this goddamn door open. Your brain is your own worst enemy in this game. If you fancy yourself a detective, boy, do I have the game for you. It's called Her Story, and it's an FMV investigative choose-your-choice adventure game wherein a woman named Hannah Smith is interviewed several times by the police in the year of 1994. Why? Well, you see, her husband Simon went missing and was later found murdered. And this is where you pick up the cold case in front of an old police database computer with several files that will give you access to a series of unfolding interviews, which are all fragmented and possibly misleading. Hannah is often answering unheard off-screen questions, forcing you to work out the context in which she is answering. On top of that, the old database is rather poorly kept, meaning that you'll need to dig through it to find words from previous transcribed interviews to see more. This game is brilliant. It will have its hooks in you from the start, and it's not too surprising considering it's a production of Sam Barlow, who also made some Silent Hill stuff. Night in the Woods is a game that lives rent-free in my head because it is just so relatable. It is a tale of returning home after going away for a while and finding that everything has changed upon your return. And that is exactly what happens to college dropout May as she goes back home to the crumbling town of Possum Springs. There, she finds the friends she knew have grown, changed, the weather is colder, the trees look less vibrant, the town has morphed, and there's something in the woods. To say that Night in the Woods might be one of the best story-driven games out there wouldn't really be too far-fetched for me. It's a possibly world-altering experience that is emotional, relatable, and downright brilliant. This is a beautiful game with such a great message along with well-written characters that really just resonated with me a lot. Now, normally games need rules. In fact, the universe has fundamental rules that kind of make it operate, you know, space, time, all those things. So when Bubba Is You came along and said, fuck it, you make the rules now, kid, it was kind of mind-blowing. Making all the rules kind of sounds like a lot of pressure on the player, but half the fun is playing around with it and causing unexpected outcomes. You see, Bubba Is You is a puzzle game where the environment and everything in it is dictated by blocks that have governing rules. The catch is you can move and manipulate them to change how the game works. Sometimes Bubba Is You is simple. Push a block, turn yourself into something, open a door. But sometimes Bubba lets you completely change the goalpost by making the goal to win the level conform to a totally different rule itself. That sounds really confusing. Originally, getting out the door was the win condition, but what if you change that to Bubba is win? You are the winner. There's probably something really nice I could say about how just being alive in the universe in itself is a win, but you'll actually be winning if you play Bubba Is You, because this game is brilliant and I can't think of a single one like it. Alright, let's swap the rules to Chaos, where the win condition is finding the perfect balance of how many pixels you can vomit out in one attack before your PC lights itself and your house on fire. Welcome to Noita, a magical action roguelike game where every single pixel you see is physically simulated. They can all burn, melt, move, evaporate, and explode in this procedurally generated world. And that makes for quite the chaotic sandbox experience when you're also given the keys to make your own spells. Sure, you can do a little magic missile that takes out enemies in a safe, controlled, and accurate way, but that's lame. So let's instead shoot out atom-dividing nuclear lightning bombs that snake and split up into trails that also leave fire and acid behind. Now, we are talking. There is no such thing as overkill in Noita. I mean, half the time your own spells will probably kill you, or everything around you will kill you, or you'll cop a stray arrow through all of the million pixels you were vomiting out and you couldn't see it, so you die. Look, Noita is one of those love-hate kind of games, you know? You'll pick it up, play it, love it, get ruined by your own folly, blame the game, hate Noita, and then wake up the next day repeating the process again. And that's what makes you love it. The Long Dark is a brilliant survival game wherein there are no zombies, no biomutants, no plagues or supernatural entities. No, you are struggling to survive against the giver and taker of it all, Mother Nature. Set in the frozen reaches of Canada in the aftermaths of a geomagnetic disaster that has set mankind back to essentially the Dark Ages, with the miracle of power being a thought of the past. You and your wooden cabin are far from comfort, and so you are met with the realistic challenges of survival in this brutal world. Health bars are irrelevant. You must manage your bodily warmth, food and hunger, preserve energy, and trek your way across vast open world maps. Every adventure is danger. The temperature is perilous, your supplies are few and far in between, and the wolves are always hungry. There is both a survival game mode and a chapter-based adventure mode to be had here, with both brilliantly capturing the struggle of surviving in the wilderness alone. So, if that interests you, welcome to the quiet apocalypse where only the wind and the wolves howl in delight. City builders have long since been one of my favorite game genres, especially ever since I got addicted to city skylines, so of course, when I saw a game about lumberjack beavers building up cities in a world after humanity is gone, yeah, I was sold so fast. Timberborn is just that. A city building game featuring ingenious beaver engineering and a full terraforming system that lets you harness the power of land, liquids, and the game's sweet 3D water physics with beaver-made rivers, dams, and aqueducts. Space is also very limited here, so why not stack buildings on top of each other with another sick vertical architecture system that the game has? You'll pick one of two beaver colonies. You've got the eco-friendly folktales or the industrialized iron teeth, each with their own traits and tech that you will need to carefully consider, with the whole wet, dry, and toxic seasons thing being, thanks humanity for the last one. You'll need to keep your settlement alive through droughts and waves of toxic waste, so get that beaver engineer going because you have fields, forests, and friends to keep alive. Season, a letter to the future. Don't be fooled by this game's gorgeous and colorful presentation or its apparent cozy light atmosphere, because behind its thinly veiled code is a story that is drenched in a little bit of that good old existential dread. There's a reason you're venturing and capturing the world around you, and that is because a cataclysm is approaching. This is a strange phenomenon where a period of time, or a season as it's known, comes to an end. And with it, the memory of all living creatures are simply washed away. Thus, in order to preserve the memories of the people, the towns, and all those moments of beauty, you're creating a journal of sorts, capturing images and sounds to answer the question of what it was like to live in your small town and its surrounding areas within this slice of time. This game really sets to sell the message that it is important to appreciate moments in time, because just like the seasons in this game and life, they are indeed fleeting. And now out of the colorful, picturesque pages of Season and into the dark clutches of the Olympic exclusion zone with Pacific Drive. I saw somebody describe this game as Subnautica meets Stalker, and funnily enough, despite its complete lack of Ukrainians, oceans, and Russians, I can see what they mean. Throw away the sea moth, trade it in for a station wagon, swap the water for an ocean of anomalous hazards and radiation, and bam, you've got a real tight-fitting comparison there. In this game, your crusty-ass delivery job has brought you to an area in the Pacific Northwest called the Olympic Exclusion Zone. A large swath of government-controlled land that continually expanded for 30 years before rapidly being abandoned, and then later sealed off by the government after an alleged experiment went wrong. Now, like a moth to the flame and a single man with no companions, it's just you, your car, and the open road. Oh, and an unfortunate absolute metric ton of hazardous anomalies that may or may not have trapped you inside the zone when you went near it. This game's somewhat a roguelite, somewhat a survival game, as you constantly drive your station wagon and lifeline into the ever-changing zone to search for answers, and also, more importantly, how to escape. Along the way, scavenging and improving your mobile fortress with the supplies you find within the safety of your base, which happens to be a convenient located garage inside the zone. If you love the unknown, survival games, and just being a loot goblin while spending a good amount of time on car repair, maintenance, and fashion, I really recommend this one. Time to pick up the pace with Neon White. This is billed as a single-player speedrunning FPS game that trades in guns for soul cards with sweet parkour and offensive abilities. Now, at first glance, the game is a first-person platformer with bullets, not that unique. But the thing that makes it oh so tasty is the soul card system. These cards double up as offensive weapons, but can also be discarded to provide you a movement ability. The pistol can shoot, but it also elevates you with a big hop, whereas the rifle lets you blitz forward and hit targets at long range. Thus, the key to this game is using the right cards at the right time to both defeat every enemy in the level and also reach the end before time runs out. It'll have you by the balls as its 10-ish hour playtime turns to 50 because you're trying to eke out faster times for shinier medals like a damn goblin with a jetpack strapped to your butt. Oh yeah, to tell you a bit about the story, your name's White, and you're an assassin handpicked from hell to race other assassins to speed slay demons for a permanent residence in that pearly white neighborhood called Heaven. The characters might be written by a 6th grader who just discovered anime, but we're not here for that. We're here for speed running with cards instead of guns, because that's cool. Kena, Bridge of Spirits is basically a play-your-own Pixar movie meets Dark Souls Light in a good way, and I like it. This is a story-driven action-adventure game wherein you play as the titular Kena, a young spirit guide off on a quest to locate navigate a sacred mountain shrine, an adventure which soon becomes embroiled in masked figures, corruption, forgotten villages, trapped spirits, and these goddamn cute little dudes called the Rot. Not a cute name, but hey, look at them. They're so goddamn adorable, yet they're also extremely powerful and useful companions that'll be helping you in and out of combat along your adventure. The game's storyline is relatively simple, but the charm is there to keep you along for the ride. A ride that is full of gorgeous visuals and pretty solid combat. There's also quite a lot to be had on the exploration side of this game, with secrets and goodies being left behind by the spirits, but that is just the icing on the cake of getting to look around this gorgeous looking world. Ooh, it's so pretty. Now look, I hate side-scrolling platformers with a passion, and there are only a few games that I will play without complaining. You know, you got games like Hollow Knight and of course, Celeste. So let me tell you about the latter, because Celeste is a game that borders so close to perfection in its genre. You find yourself in the climbing boots of Madeline, who is both trying to survive the climb to the top of Celeste Mountain and also her inner demons. You see, not only is this game about the challenge of climbing the mountain, which in itself can be quite the obstacle, it's also about personal growth and becoming comfortable in your own skin. The story evolves along with the climb, and that climb is tough, much like our everyday struggles to understand ourselves. Touching story aside, the game focuses on precision platforming with gorgeous handcrafted levels, painted with an even more gorgeous pixel art style that is wrapped in a soundtrack that will have your screams of agony bopping along in rhythm. I got poofed into a cloud of smoke thousands of times in this game, and it was worth it every single time. Whether you're a completionist and live for the challenge or struggle a lot with platformers, the choice is yours. Collect everything or use the game's assist. Everyone's journey is different, and Celeste is precisely about that, our journey. Bramble the Mountain King is one for lovers of horror games such as Little Nightmares. It is admittedly a grim tale that follows along with a young boy named Ole, who sets out on an adventure to save his sister who has been kidnapped by a troll. Unfortunately, not one of those internet trolls with terrible jokes, no. One of the hulking 30-foot human-hungry variety, which does not bode well for your sister who would barely qualify as an appetizer. The twisted lands of Bramble are heavily inspired by dark Nordic folk tales, so if you are versed in fables and folklore, you might know exactly what could be lurking in the shadows for our young protagonist. Bramble is a very solid story experience that will only be amplified for fans with a bit of knowledge in its roots. It offers relatively basic gameplay with very light controls, but as it never really overstays its welcome, it works wonders because it really lets you focus on the game's dark, oppressing nature. Now, if hearing the words Doki Doki Literature Club doesn't instill you with pure undilated dread, then you probably haven't played it. And if you have, I'm sorry for even mentioning the name. This probably caused your therapist some troubles. I mean, it's just a dating sim, dear viewer. Don't worry about it. It's just a dating sim. And in this Just a Dating Sim, you are an unnamed protagonist with 4 lovely potential ladies vying for your weeb heart in the classic, not scary at all school setting. Welcome to the Literature Club. You're now a part of it, and every day is full of fun chit-chat with your fellow club members. Will you write your way into their hearts, or will this game ride its way into the very essence of your soul as it keeps you awake at night in a suspended state of sleeplessness, with you wishing to the cosmos that you could only remove it from your thoughts for a mere moment? Too bad your prayers won't be answered, because that cosmos is only Monika. I cannot even accurately describe how much of a roller coaster this game is, but its twists and turns will break your neck because you won't see any of them coming. It's also free, but again, the therapy cost is not. Now back to the best platformers ever made discussion. We simply cannot have that without Shovel Knight. Including this may slightly be cheating, considering the fact that this is actually several games bundled into one. But look, if you like platformers and have not got around to the Shovel Knight saga yet, it is now conveniently all placed inside a treasure trove edition which contains 4 or so campaigns, along with a multiplayer fighting game that also slaps. This 8-bit platformer follows a good old Knight of the Spade as he goes on to dig, blast, slash and bash his way through an awe-inspiring world that is perfectly molded platforming. Along the way, you'll have iconic music blasting in your ear whilst you bury idiots with your shovel on a quest to find your beloved. Well, unless you're playing as the Plague Knight, the Spectre Knight, or the King Knight, who all have their own tales to form one sweeping grand saga. Damn, Shovel Knight really is that iconic trendsetter of a game that you would tell your mum about even if she knew nothing about it in any way, shape, or form. It is brilliant and a must-play if platformers are your thing. I didn't even like this genre, by the way, carrying on. You know, placing a lot of expectation on a child can be tough enough for them, often leading them to become underachieving and underperforming young adults that never made a decision of their own because instead they were guided along every step of their path by their over-ambitious parents. Well, in one shot, you're guiding a child through a mysterious world on a mission to restore a long-dead son. No pressure, kid. Oh, and you also only have one shot to do it. One Shot is a surreal top-down puzzler that doesn't just shatter the fourth wall, it pretends the damn thing doesn't even exist. This is a game that you will walk into blind and walk out of a mess. A unique experience, but not just for its gameplay. It is a tale unlike any other that in its short 5-ish hour runtime will leave you reeling. It may be 5 hours to play, but it will be playing in your head for a long time after that. This game is one that I can tell you little about. Just know that it will blow your mind. And again, no pressure, but you only have one shot to do everything, and there will not be a second chance. Unsheath that blade and get ready to move at breakneck speeds on Katana Zero. For a genre that I don't really like, I gotta give it up to some of these platformers for transcending the general dislike I have for their entire foundation. And look, Katana Zero is definitely one of those games. Featuring smooth-ass instant death combat, this is an adventure where the brutality within is only matched by the acrobatics and how good you look while doing it all. The game also features a very interesting approach to psychiatry that I've never quite seen and I'm pretty sure would definitely get you fired. That being the sessions involving pumping you full of a drug called Chronos that allows the patient, aka you, to manipulate time. Before then also giving you an assassination target under the influence that you have to hit. Or should I say slice, because the katana in Katana Zero is your main method of unsubscribing people from life. It also allows you to reflect bullets back at the uncultured, non-weeb dispensers of violence. Better not miss though, because a single bullet hitting you will be enough to end your run. But wait a minute, do you remember that time manipulating drug that you're on? Yeah, nah, all of your failures are just possible futures that you saw, and you can then go on to watch the successful dash and slasher film at the end, which is so goddamn cool. And sweeping in at our final spot, this is a game that I'm pretty sure people were willing to throw hands at me with because I missed it on the previous list, and that is Miss Indie Universe itself, Undertale. Now, I will admit my failures for not including this one in the last list because Undertale is probably the indie game that most of you think about. If I was to quiz a bunch of you and ask what's the most iconic indie character, I'd probably have a fair few of you screaming Sans at me. And if you somehow don't know this masterpiece yet, well, it's gaming DNA, so now you have to play it. You'll be controlling a small chap who's taken a small plunge into the underground, aka a world separated from the standard boring part of Earth by a magical barrier. And in order to get home, you'll have to navigate plenty of puzzles, and your typical urge to dispense as much violence as possible when playing video games. You see, violence isn't always the answer in Undertale. Maybe you can try and be friendly for once, huh, you fucking psycho? Look, Undertale is what indie games are about. It may not look flashy, but it hits every note of what is needed in a near-perfect game, and it hits those notes with bravado. Also, you can maybe date a skeleton. Who knows? Is that a selling point? And with that, that is another stupidly large list done. If you are somehow still here and you're still rocking with me, thank you so much for watching. Also, if you found a game that you liked, if I talked about one that you love, or maybe you thought I was funny and want to hear me yap a bit more, please do us a huge favor and subscribe to this channel. It would be an absolute pleasure to see you again in future videos, and this won't be the last one of these stupidly big lists, I'm sure. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and fair winds to you.